Hello everyone, voiceover Nisy here. Today we have a different type of episode in our series. I'm coming up with a cold, so instead of doing live commentary and progress the game, I'll use this opportunity to create something we've been meaning to do for quite some time, and that is create a storage room. I'm tired of running around between the base to collect the needed materials, so let's just join them all in the same place. So I wasn't quite sure what to do at the start. You can see me first try various types of formats for a base. Do I build a big base and include the hub? Do I just do a little storage room? This is usually how it goes with my builds. I just start placing things down randomly and see what sticks and what doesn't. The space we had was quite limited too, and the building would be an awkward shape. I was seeing if I could find more space, however, we also had an issue with elevation in certain parts. Part of me was also thinking if I should include the hub or not, so I started emptying it out and ended up deleting it later too. And here I am seeing if I can buy any things to help me with my build. Everything is super expensive too, so I need to be picky. I really wanted to buy a paint though, however, I can't test them before buying, so I just assumed black would look good with almost anything. So I opted for carbon black finishing and I was right. The paint looked really cool. I moved a bit to the garden. I tried to add things that I could paint over, maybe something that could be seen as a bench or table of some sort. I come back a bit later to add more stuff. Here I remember that I have concrete walls unlocked and start comparing them to see which of them would look best. I also wanted to add a bit of variation, so using a different type of wall than the other builds is quite refreshing. Oh, and there are 1 meter walls, which I use to make small little stone fences around the park. They look quite nice. Also, I'm trying to make some sort of table in the park, but I wasn't really sold. Again, just testing things out and seeing if they look good. I gave up on the park eventually though and moved to the main project again. I was trying to see if I could maybe make diagonal walls, however, this proved to be quite a challenge. I tried everything, placing fences and trying to stick a wall in them, using round foundations, using diagonal foundations on the ground, but nothing really sticked. Here, almost an hour has passed and I'm still with a blank slate. These things require quite a bit of time and it's a lot of trial and error. Also, I ran out of power again midway because again I disconnected a power pole which I shouldn't have. So off goes the biofuel burner to save the day again. Here again you can see me try diagonal walls, but eventually I just scrapped that idea since it would also be quite awkward with the various containers. So yeah, I had enough, so I just start building. I just trying to make a cool entrance at the start, using pillars, using walls. The more layers you add, the more depth the build has, and in my opinion, the cooler the build looks as well. Even placing things on top of each other using Satisfactory's iffy overlapping objects is a game changer in my opinion. Also, I noticed that the containers were a bit bigger than I thought. So if I tried to make the build 12 meters wide, or in other words 3 foundations wide, it would be too clumped together. Eventually I had to add more foundations to make more space. I'm also testing what I can place on top of the container to see what I can hide from it, to again add more layers and more depth. I figured placing a small pillar on either side to hide the front would look pretty cool. I'm slowly coming to some decisions, and I slowly start adding the first walls and pillars that will stay until the final project. Also, before anything, test if the conveyor walls actually work, because I don't want to build everything and have to tear it down because they didn't work. The temporary containers that I placed to hold my items were also in the way. This is my poor planning at its finest. So here you can see me add various containers to see how they look, try to hide the top parts with some walls, and in general try to figure out what looks cool, what doesn't. Trying to place some walls up there, maybe I will make a big building. Those will eventually also be torn down, but you will see. Thinking of adding conveyor belts at the top, but I scrapped that idea as well. Here I was thinking of buying the gate from the Awesome Shop, but it was a bit too expensive for the moment. Also, going to check on the coal miner. I think it already filled up with coal, so I can connect it back to the power and turn on all of my machines again. Just adding the other side as well, trying to make everything look symmetrical. Yeah, you can see where this is going now. I'm counting all of the containers that I have spread out through the building and seeing how long this storage room actually needs to be. I'll probably have to eventually make a second floor for future items, but we'll see. I also finally start moving the temporary containers that were really bothering me. Trying to hide the containers again. Also, I placed the containers a bit in front so that I could place a foundation wall right on at the front as well. So you cannot even see the sides of the containers. I think that was a pretty cool idea of mine. Again, just adding more details, trying to make everything look symmetrical but also not very blocky, trying to add textures, trying to add more depth. That's my goal. Even though it's a small build, I still wanted to add as much detail as I could without overflowing it, and even placing some walls actually took quite some time because I wanted to align them pretty well with the others and I couldn't get the right angle. It was a mess. Lots of ideas being placed, being torn down. You can see how it works. This is my brain just thinking of what looks cool, what doesn't. Just try things out. This is what I like, just testing things out, learning things on my own. This is quite fun. This is my satisfactory experience. Even just creating a build for me is fun. Just trying to see how it would look if I try to add a second floor, maybe add a couple of pillars in the middle, jumping pads to reach the floors easily. Just trying to plan out the future, but I think I have enough space and I have enough creativity to fix it if I ever need to add a second floor, which I most definitely will have to do. Just trying to see if any walls are a bit too boring, like for example this one. Okay, it seems a bit too flat, so I'll add some pillars and I'll add some more details later. Of course, don't forget everything will be colored in later, so everything would look a bit different because for now it's way too gray. And for me, symmetry is key, so trying to make everything look the same on both sides is very important. And I don't want to create an eyesore, a symmetric eyesore. So here I start planning the roof, how I'm going to do it, because like the foundations are a bit too small to cover the whole roof, so I will have to add something else as well. I think I then do some pillars, you will see. Yeah, just testing out what could not. I even tried like these angled walls, but nothing is really sticking for now. I eventually decide on these concrete pillars. I think they look quite okay, and since they have some rough edges, it adds a bit of depth as well. Oh, I did place two sets of these concrete pillars, but in the end I decided to only have one and start removing the other. Just checking how everything looks. I think I'm pretty content with it right now, so I think I'm going to start adding a couple more details and then I will color them in. I also start planning how the conveyor belts are going to go and remove excess foundation that I placed around the base. Also, now I finally have the tickets that I wanted to buy the gates. However, I decided to make the two buildings separate to each other, so adding a gate now wouldn't look that good. Maybe eventually I will connect them back together, but for now I think I'll just keep the tickets. They're quite valuable. doing a bit of belt work, of course trying to keep everything very straight using the straight function on the belts. However, I there were some key issues that I didn't quite understand at the start. For example, using the straight option on the conveyor belts, if you try to connect A to B, it will have one format. However, if you do B to A, it will have another format. It's quite weird. Nonetheless, good to know for the future, and I will eventually also figure it out here. I also wanted to add conveyor poles to keep as many conveyor lines together as possible to avoid using so much space. However, that's kind of inevitable. There will be lots of conveyor belts along the base, but also that's what looks cool. It's a factory game. You want to see resources flowing from one end to the other constantly, so yeah. There was quite a lot of belt work. I needed to connect the screws, the iron pipes, the iron plates, the concrete, later on the copper wire, the cable, the copper sheets, the reinforced plates, the rotors, now the steel beams, the steel pipes, the modular frames. There were quite a lot of belt work, so I'll probably just skip a bit. The first items are now coming into the containers, and also I already finished the second production for the phase 2 elevator. You can see me placing them all next to the elevator now as well because I left the world open for quite a long time while editing the last video, so yeah, that step was basically skipped. The long wait was skipped with one assembler crafting 1000 of the frameworks, but yeah. More belt work here. Now I'm going to connect the copper wires and the copper cables and the copper sheets and eventually the other materials as well. At this point, all of the conveyor belts have already been attached, almost all of them, only a couple of parts are missing. And you can see me up there looking if everything looks good. You can already see all of the materials flowing in. Also, all of the machines just turned on, so I'm having a couple of power issues. Yeah, um, that's why I'm not connecting all of the parts just yet, but I am connecting a few. Also, I was checking the power and I noticed that if you spam the screen, because I was trying to check a single peak, if you spam the screen, you get an error message. Did you guys see that or know about it? Well, I didn't. Just trying to empty out my inventory and also all of the containers that are spread out. I'm just turning them into ticket points right now. I could put the materials into the containers, but that would be a lot of mergers and I don't really want to do that right now. So let the machines make more. Oh, and at this point I couldn't really add more sinks because I had no more power. If I add one more, the power would go down. So I just added a bunch of conveyor belts, attached them all to one single container that fed into a sink, and let's let's just wait until it turns them all into tickets. Okay, it's time to finally start coloring the build. I went with a black and white type of color scheme. I think it fitted really well with the build, and I really wanted to use the carbon black that I just bought because come on, I need to use those tickets. If I just color everything black, it would be a bit too black, so I eventually change those walls up at the front to because they are better with white coloring, in my opinion. Just seeing which one is better, and I went with this one. Also, finally putting the hub back in now that I've finished painting most of it. Not all of it, but most of it. Adding the last couple of details as well. And finally, adding the last coloring on the walls. I also changed these walls at the back with the white ones to make a bit more contrast as well. Painting the ground, and I think I will also eventually add some lights. I try to be a bit finicky with those because I wanted to hide them because they are still street lights, but I eventually put them into the walls and into the buildings, again using the non-existent collision sometimes on Satisfactory. Non-existent is a strong word because it does exist sometimes and it's very annoying when it does, but in this case it didn't, so yeah. Also, I do a little trick to hide the wiring. I like to put the power poles, the wall stands, the power wall stands, whatever it's called, on the ground, on the foundation where the light is standing, and connect it to that point. This way, you don't really see the cables going through the base that much, and I also connect all the points underground as well. So my goal is that you never see any cables around the base. I'm still going to do that for multiple other light poles around the base as well. Just trying to make everything look a bit symmetrical. I eventually noticed that the middle lights are placed on the wrong position and they needed to be moved one further. I groaned because it was like we were hitting the 3 hour mark for this build, but yeah, it's a small build, but you wouldn't guess the amount of time I've spent here just trying to add little details, just trying to make it cool. Yeah, I think it turned out pretty okay for what it did. And yeah, I think we are done here. We are completely satisfied. Just trying to take a look at the top, destroying the ladders that we used in the other buildings, and oh, we were also going to try to hide the poles as much as possible. So I come up with the decision to hide them with pillars, and that also adds a bit more depth as well. Adding the last pillars at the top to not make it that very flat. And yeah, we are done. Here I'm just seeing if I can add anything else, but I'm quite satisfied already. Just giving it a bit of hearts because, yeah, this was a nice little session and I quite enjoyed building it. I made a little conveyor belt along the sky to look at the finished product. This is the biggest build we've done, even though it's not very tall. It's the biggest. The amount of detail that I put in was the most, at least for now, even more than the modular frames one. And I just noticed that it's not symmetrical with those pillars at the top. I will have to go and change it later. Don't look at it. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a blast doing it. Hope I get better with my cold. Also, my birthday is tomorrow, so I really need to be better. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching me, and bye bye.